Hello friends, and welcome to Fishcraft. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so very much. Fishcraft is my lovely Minecraft survival series that I've had for well over a year now, where I just do a bunch of building and a whole bunch of fishing, which I hope is abundantly clear by the whopping 257,000 fish I have caught. And hopefully by the end of today's video, we will have caught even more, because I've got a lot of fishing I need to do today, and a lot of building I would hope to do. First things first, can I just say that I have been in a very terraforming mood. So for the past 2 or 3 days now, I have been hard at work doing a little bit of texturing and a little bit of terraforming of the shoreline that we made in our last video. And can I just say, I really love it. I really love this, because in my last video, I got some lovely suggestions saying that I should go through my little shoreline and I should add some little tide pools of the sort. And I'll be honest, I didn't know what that was. I didn't really know what tide pools were. So I had to Google some pictures of some real-life tide pools. They were just like half ponds connecting to the actual shoreline. So that's pretty much all I did. I just went and added a couple circles and like some more jagged bits to the actual shoreline here, just to give it a bit more visual interest. And that's definitely not all we're going to be doing today. I think I'm going to be doing this video a little bit differently than I've been doing it before. So since I've been in such a terraforming mood recently, and I don't really have any plans for very many more buildings for this for this season, what I think I'm going to do for today is we're going to do a whole bunch of fishing together and a whole bunch of terraforming, and we're not going to be doing it in the usual little spin transition way that we usually do, or maybe we will. Maybe we'll see how that goes. All to say, I do plan on doing this the old-fashioned way. So I'm going to be taking you all with me as I do my regular fishing and by my terraforming and stuff. However, I've already lost footage for this, so this is off to a terrible start, but it's okay. We'll just start right here. Since I really don't like this beachfront here, what we're going to do is we're going to add a very small piece of cliff face going from right here all the way to the end of this this weird starter base that I made. However, it is going to taper as we go, so this is, I'm thinking, going to be the tallest point of the cliff face, or maybe there'll be another piece right here that'll be quite wonky, and it'll warp itself right up to a little N shape, and it'll go back down, and it's going to be lovely. And it is looking good so far, because this is just the stone bit after all. There's no grass or anything added to the top, so it is going to be considerably higher, and it's really exciting. Look at all these shulker boxes I've got now of the little terraforming stuff that we got. I got 4 landscape shulker boxes now. Are you proud of me? I'm proud of me. Also, just in case I didn't mention it already, the whole point of this video is to try and get my mega base and stuff more attached to the land around it, instead of just looking like a giant building popped onto a flat surface. I really don't like this. All right, so first thing, whenever I'm doing my little mountains and such, or I guess not my mountains, my cliffs and things, I usually go through with 2 blocks to start to shape out my general shape that I want to do for the actual cliff itself. I just need to figure out where I want this thing to go. So I do think I want this to follow the shoreline a bit closely, so that I have enough room to add bits of sand and stuff going up into the actual cliff face, so that I can add a bit more depth and stuff to the actual shoreline, which is the whole point of this after all. So we're going to use this stone here and have it follow the little sand line here. So we're just going to place this in a big line. I think I want this part to actually just go directly onto where the sand is itself, because I do like the shape of the sand shoreline that we have, so maybe I can use this as like a guiding line. All right, there we go. And then we'll connect this bit up to this wall here, and there we go. I think this is a good basic shape for the first layer of the actual cliff face. So now we go through and we stack it up to 2 blocks. There we go. There's our little 2-stack wall. Usually it's at about 2 blocks where I start extruding the next layer, or I'll make it start going outwards more. And I am still going to stick to that. However, I will randomize the little up and down bits here, and then we just follow this pattern all the way across to wherever it meets up over there. However, for the taller parts of the cliff faces, I usually like to try putting off the expanding outwards of the blocks, at least until like 4 to 5 blocks, so that I can get as much height as I can without making it look too noisy, I suppose. So what we want to do is we want to follow a bit of a wave here. So we're going to kind of use I'm going to use my mouse to try and determine where I want my next wave to be. And I'm thinking maybe about right here we can have another bit that goes up. And then for the front of the gate right here, we'll have it taper off completely, and we'll have a cute little pathway, and then it'll go back up, and it's gonna be great. So this is the block right here that needs to go upwards more. So we're gonna do a gradual raise. So we're gonna start it with the 1 block, and then 2 block, 3 block, and then we bring it all the way up until it reaches the highest point again. Yeah, okay, I think that's tall enough for now. And we'll just continue this weird wavy pattern all the way across until we reach this corner bit. Ta-da! There we go. It's not my greatest work, but I definitely think it'll work for now. So now that we've got this first piece of the little cliff face done, I think what I'm going to start doing next is moving on to the left side of the cliff face. So this is our right one, where we'll have our cute little shoreline batting up against the cliff face with all the tide pools and all the sand gathering up in the corners and stuff. And then on our left side, which is where it's going to be going behind our little starter base that we have over here, we're going to have the cliff, I think, wrap around the whole backside of the starter base here, and then we'll just have it kind of taper off onto the edges, and then it'll slowly just flatten itself out. Now, I did originally want it to go all the way around into the actual side of the castle here, and then like connect up with this, but then I felt like that was going to be sectioning off this little piece, and I really like this view right here. This feels very not like something I would be able to do, so it feels good. Like I'm proud to look at it, so I don't want to miss it. So that's the plan right now. We're going to be doing some terraforming. We're going to be pretty much duplicating this whole piece of cliff face and then dropping it right over here to be behind the starter base, and also we'll give it a good little backdrop as well. And then maybe once we're done with that, we can try to work on doing something with this base, because I'll be honest, I genuinely do not like this building at all. I didn't like it from the start. I didn't like building it in the first place, and it's just pretty much been an eyesore since I started the series. So maybe we'll redesign it, or we'll get rid of it completely, or both. Maybe we'll destroy it and then rebuild it somewhere else. And with that, let us get started on doing the second part of the little cliff face. So I just had a thought. What if instead of having the cliff face taper off, we do the cliff all the way through with no breaks in the middle, and then we just put a little archway in the middle, and then it'll connect up the pathway here. I mean, that certainly sounds more tropical than what I had played before. Yep, okay. I definitely like this idea more, so that's what we're gonna work with. All right, I got it. So we're gonna have this piece over here slowly transition over to this little pile of dirt right here. So we need to maybe do big long lines and then a subtle curve. That is not a subtle curve. That is terrible. No, we're gonna take that right back. It was a little not subtle enough. How about we actually do the opposite and we go forwards more? Ooh, maybe if we're feeling pretty good about this, maybe we could have the cliff face wrap around the actual base here itself, so that it kind of cuts off here at the water edge, so that it feels more at home. Maybe we'll try that. I don't know why I thought that sheep was a person. Now let's just wrap this little piece of stone all the way to the water's edge. Ta-da! There we go. We got it. I think this is going to be a great idea. It might look funny at first because, you know, I'm still learning how to do terraforming, but I have confidence that with enough refining, I can make this look okay. Gosh, this is a much bigger project than I originally had anticipated. I thought I was just going to be doing only this little piece right here, and that's it. That I've just wrapped it all the way around this whole front of the building. Good grief. But I've got a lot of work I still need to do on this cliff face. So let's get to placing some blocks. And how do we feel about this? How does this look? I think it looks really good. Now, I did go through on the back sides of the starter base. This wall specifically, I decided to put a bit more vertical height to it because it is going to be behind the building after all, so I do still want it to be slightly visible. That being said, however, we are good to move on to the next stage of the terraforming bit, at least for now. I am skipping a step here, but that's okay. It is time for us to move on to the grass placement part of the terraforming bit, and I can definitely say with full confidence that this is my favorite part, but it also is one of the most difficult. So maybe I just like doing difficult building stuff, but that's okay. So usually whenever I am building these grass parts, I for some reason like to build in a little pattern of like a little plus. So I'll start by doing like little stuff like this, and I'll just work my way down. So maybe we can do like a grass rim going all the way across the top of the actual stone itself, and then we'll expand the grass from there. And then afterwards we will do the refining and the overhangs and all that. I think before I do any of the grass placement over here, we'll finish this side so that I can see if I'm doing it properly. So starting from this back section here, we are going to expand the, or not expand, we're going to push the dirt over the top of the actual stone itself, just to make it look like the grass here is like overhung the top of the dirt, or that, you know, it's been grown here so that it kind of has just been flopped over the side over time because of how much dirt there is. So we're just gonna do this pretty much wrapped all the way along the whole top here in varying degrees of wonkiness, I suppose. So let's just get this done really quickly. Hey, this is actually turning out pretty good so far. So I did also notice a small pattern that I seem to be doing with the grass placement stuff. And it's that every single time I bring my actual dirt down from the stone and stuff, I always make sure that there's a 1 block gap before I have it go upwards. So here, whenever I do my little overhangs, I always go 1 block back and then upwards, kind of like a staircase. And I don't really know why. This kind of just is what's happening as I build, and I'm just talking about how I do things, you know, my weird process that I have that I don't even know where it came from. This is just what's just happening. I do also find that it's good to add a bit of abnormality to the terraforming, I suppose. So for example, usually whenever I'm doing my steps and stuff, I definitely want it to be like 1 block up like this, so it looks like a staircase for the most part. However, sometimes I'll go through and I'll add like that 1-2 block step up, just to add a bit of diversity in the look here, and it kind of breaks up this weird checkerboard pattern that we get sometimes. Oh, and it's raining. Oh, I really want to do fishing, but also I desperately need to get this terraforming done. So I think we're gonna do some terraforming first, and then we'll do fishing as a reward. Oh no. Yeah, I definitely think I should have made this taller. Well, I don't really know, because if I made it taller, then it kind of would be cutting into the view of the mega base now, wouldn't it? So I feel very conflicted. I don't know. I do think it looks good so far. I just wish it was a bit more of a cliff face and less of a rocky hill, I suppose. That's okay though. This is a learning experience after all, so the more I do this, the better I will get. Or at least that's what the hope is for building, right? Usually you would hope that you would get better, builder better over, wow, I messed that up. Usually you would hope that you would get better over time. That being said, this is the finished product of the first half, at least the front of it. We've still got to do it again on the other side, and also this left side here. So we're gonna do so we're gonna head over to the left side now, and we're gonna do the exact same thing that we just did on this side, but to over here. And hopefully it's easier the second time. So we're just gonna do a little tiny twirl, and there we go. This has taken a couple hours already, and I must say that it definitely gets easier over time, because this was such a good time. Now, I did get a bit sloppy towards the end here, in that I actually didn't do too much connecting of the dirt from underneath here, so I do still need to go around and pop some dirt in some places, like up here, and then put it down and stuff. I didn't think I would love terraforming as much as I do. It turns out, you know, when you're scared to do certain styles of building and stuff, the best thing you can do is just start, I guess. And with that being said, it is time for us to move on to the next part of terraforming for me, and that is the sand and the connecting up to the actual rock wall, which actually I think is the whole point I even made this cliff face, was because I wanted the beach here to have just a little bit more depth, and I couldn't do that because my whole building was just 1 block above sea level. So we've constructed this whole wall here for this. So we should be good to get started then. So my goal for the sand and stuff is to have it look like this. I did do this earlier, but this was part of the lost footage. So right here, you can tell that this sand kind of is like washed up and like hitting the rock wall here, and I think this looks lovely. Like this type of terraforming is beautiful. And I'm going to try to replicate this in just little spots here and there over this other pieces of the rock wall and stuff, wrapping all the way around. Maybe not over here by the base, because it's too far away from the water for it to really be doing that, but I will figure it out as I go. Well, I mean, this is my world, so maybe it's not too far for me to put some sand up. And while I'm doing my lovely sand terraforming stuff, here is also all of the fishing I've been doing this past week, because I'm also about to jump into more fishing myself, so I may as well do the rest of the fishing I've already done. Doop 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 doop. Fish noises. Doop boop boop. And the little fishing time lapse. It's always good to take little breaks in between the really long stretches of like terraforming and creative building and stuff. So I am very thankful that I've got my fishing rod. So we've got our fishing and stuff out of the way. We are good to move on to our next piece of the terraforming and stuff. Well, oh wait, actually, I forgot. I haven't shown the sand piece that I've done yet. There we go. Here's our little sand bit. So I wasn't exactly sure what type of pattern I should be using for this. So I kind of just went over just all over the place and placed it in random. Now, the only issue, though, is I seem to be struggling really badly with these tide pools. Like, I don't know how I should place the tide pools over there to make them look a bit more natural. So this right here is pretty much all I came up with, and I did it on purpose. I made it look like a little paw print because of how many cats I have, so I thought that was pretty cute. I definitely think if I were to change anything, it would be the tide pools here, because that, for me right now, is the one thing that seems like it's setting this place off a little bit, but only because I don't know how to do them properly, so this is my fault. It just all seems very noisy over there, doesn't it? Like this over here, this looks very smooth, and like this is good, and it goes really well with the tiny pond here. And then over here, it's just super noisy and kind of messed up. Maybe I should go through and do a bit more refining before I move on. So I'll do that really quickly. And there we go. This took significantly longer than I expected, but I do think it does look a bit better. It's less noisy, that's for sure. So I did realize what my problem was and why I liked this side so much better than this one. And it was because on this side I had 2 block gaps sometimes, kind of mixed in the slope of the sand here. So you can see that it goes slab, and then two slabs here, and then it goes back up one. Whereas over here, I made the issue of having it go just 1 slab at a time the whole way up. So it gained a lot of height, and I kept on having to have these really large flat areas, and it just looked really bad. So if you just add in these extra like 2 block, 3 block flat surfaces in your actual landscape itself, it seems like it looks less bad when you have to see these larger spaces, because there's already some of them kind of just sprinkled in. I don't think I've explained this properly, but I fixed it. Genuinely, I love doing this landscaping stuff. This has been a lovely learning experience so far. The whole best part of this whole situation is I never have to use Axiom again. I always enjoyed doing the free flow placing myself. I just didn't think I was good enough to do the free flowing. Now that we've got the sand business all done and dusted, I think it is good for us to move on to the grass fixing situation, or I suppose connecting the cliff face to the actual landscape itself on this side. So what it is I think I want to do for this is we're going to do a mixture of both cliff face and tapering, like a slope or so. So I think for the 2 corners, we will have it slope to the ground itself to touch, like the grass will eventually be touching the floor on this side and this side, but in the middle, we're still going to have a rock face because I do still have to build a small cavern going through, being the entrance way to the little castle here. So we're going to be doing a good mixture of both. And with that, we are good to begin on our little cliff face, and with our little hop and a skip, there we go. We got a cute little piece of terrain done. I almost called it a terraform, but I think I almost messed it up. We got a cute little piece of terrain. We did all kinds of landscaping, all kinds of terraforming, and I do think it looks lovely. However, I definitely am still, I'm still a bit messed up in terms of my abilities, to actually terraform properly. I still am struggling to figure out what the patterns are that I need to be recycling pretty much whenever I do all my landscaping and stuff. And it is a bit rough. It certainly could use some refining. However, this definitely is the best I could do in terms of like grass placement, because once again, I think the issue with this terraforming is that it's not really tall enough for the amount of overhang that I've given it with the grass, right? So if I were to do anything different here, it would be to make the stone at least 2 times taller. But then again, that also comes with the downside of blocking the view mostly of the mega base here. And sightlines are everything, but you know it isn't everything. My terraforming skills. Also, I am really sorry if I sound tired. I have been up all night, and it is currently 4 a.m., and I'm still recording. So this has been a fantastic terraforming session. And with that, we are still not even close to being done. Well, we're kind of close to being done. We need to get started on doing some, I want to say refining of the terraforming we just did, but really I'm just going back through and re-adding some decorations that I have on the rest of my terraforming. Like behind me there, you can see that I have a bunch of grass and the ferns and the coarse dirt and stuff mixed into the front here, which is exactly what I want to do on this whole thing over here. And that is exactly what we did. So I did go through and I added all kinds of... Ow. Okay, this is fine. Everything's fine. Just a little Santa Claus, little chimney action. So I did go through and I added a bunch of grass and coarse dirt and ferns and all kinds of stuff to help liven up the area and just add a bit more greenery. And also just to make it help feel a bit more like, oh goodness, a bit more like an actual landscape instead of just something that's been popped on top of a flat surface. Oh my goodness! Why is there so many? There's so many monsters over here. No. And I do think it looks better now. However, I'm not ashamed to admit that this does not look good at all. I'm not very good at terraforming, but I am having a good time doing it. And that is, after all, the whole reason I'm doing these videos, because it is a lovely time. Not because they are polished or look great or anything. And to think all of this could have been settled by just building 3 or 4 blocks above sea level when making my bases and stuff. So, lesson learned. Definitely lesson learned. Also, goodness. My poor rainbow sheep forest, it's turned into rainbow sheep cliff face. There's hardly any forest left over here at all for them. That's right. I forgot to mention that in between videos, I completely forgot that I did also do a bit more terraforming, but it was just in between my fishing and stuff. So this right here was my regular area that I used to do all my fishing. And in my last video, I did this terraforming bit right here, which was connecting my shoreline to the bottom of the ocean floor. And I did have it cut off about at this section right here. And I definitely didn't think that looked very good. So I did move it all the way across up to Lazari's hut over here. And we've got the whole bottom of the seafloor now, all fully terraformed, and I think it looks lovely. However, I probably should in the future add some darker tones, maybe some birch wood just on the very bottom so that it looks like the sediment and stuff has settled and it's more of an actual seafloor instead of a very polished, a very sandy floor. Or maybe it would make sense considering this is a high traffic boat area. So maybe it's all fresh sand or something because of the boats. I don't know. I forgot to mention that I did make some mine carts so that I was just sitting in them whenever I did my fishing and stuff. That was really fun. Also, good grief. Look at all these different drowns I've collected now. I got 4 squids now and 4 drowns, I think. Hold on, let me catch this fish. 3 drowns and 1, 2, 3, 4 squids and Penelope the LA, named by, I think that was Little Bits LA. This has been such a great time today. I have done so much terraforming and my brain is all frazzled. I need to do just a little bit of fishing. I do still have a bunch of other stuff that I need to do in terms of terraforming and reconnecting the little cliff face over to the waterfront over there. But I will do that hopefully, I think, in another episode, because I have unfortunately already run out of time for today's episode. This has taken me the full week already to get this sorted. I genuinely, I did have a really, really good time doing this terraforming, and the different type of video I felt like was also a good step in the right direction. I did enjoy sharing like what little processes I went through to do all this type of stuff, and I did still keep some of the little spin transitions, but that's only because I was gonna just be showing the same stuff that I already just showed. Like for the grass and the stone, it pretty much is just this whole thing, but like flipped on the other side. It's a really good time, and I definitely am going to be doing a lot more terraforming and hopefully getting better at that, considering, you know, the whole next series I'm going to be doing should hopefully have a good bit of terraforming in it, because I do really want to get better at that. There's three things in Minecraft that I wish I was really good at, and it's fishing, which I guess I'm pretty okay at it. So it's fishing, shipbuilding, and landscaping. Those are 3 things that I would love to be a lot better at, so I will be practicing. I almost forgot again. I keep on forgetting to do the fish caught at the end of the video. So at the end of my last episode, I was at a whopping 257,000 fish caught, and after a whole week of both terraforming and fishing, I am now at a whopping 262,580. That's a pretty good number for a week, I suppose. And if you'll excuse me, I have to go straight back to fishing. That being said, however, I have unfortunately already run out of time for today's video. This has taken the full week for me to do. So I thank you all so very much for watching this episode of Fishcraft. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.